Hello everyone, here is Afra Siab. Today we are going to solve Cambridge IGCSE Physics Paper 2 Multiple Choice Extended held on May-June 2018 and paper code is 0625 with variant 22. So let's start from question number 1. Question number 1. A length of cotton is measured between 2 points on a ruler. When the length of the cotton is wound closely around a pen, it goes round 6 times. What is the distance once round the pen? So here we have to find out the distance. In the figure 1, we can see that there is a cotton and it is placed on the ruler. We can take the initial and final reading and find out its length. At the start, this coincides with 2.4 centimeter, while at the end, here is 15.6 centimeter. So the total length of this cotton will be 15.6 minus 2.4, which is equal to 13.2 centimeter. Now this cotton goes round 6 times and we have to find out the distance for one round. So I divide it with 6. It will be equal to 2.2 centimeter. So this is the distance once round the pen. From here, option A is correct. Question number 2. When does an object falling vertically through the air reach terminal velocity? Option A. When the acceleration of the object becomes negative. B. When the acceleration of the object is equal to g. C. When the air resistance equal to the weight of the object. D. When the air resistance is greater than the weight of the object. So first of all, here the object reaches the terminal velocity. I suppose that here is object and it is falling through the air. The weight of this object is acting vertically downward and it is equal to mg. When this object moves downward direction, then the velocity increases. With the increase in velocity, there is a force that is acting in the upward direction. This is due to the air resistance. So I write here air resistance force. With the increase in velocity, this force also increases. At the instant when the air resistance force become equal to the weight of the object, body attains the terminal velocity, and when the body attains the terminal velocity, the net force will be equal to 0. Because in this way the body is accelerating in downward direction, so the net force will be equal to weight minus air resistance force. When a body achieves terminal velocity, then the air resistance force and weight, both of these are equal. So I write here W minus W, both of these cancels. So net force will be equal to 0. When the net force is equal to 0, then according to Newton's second law of motion, F is equal to ma, then acceleration will be equal to 0. It means that at the terminal velocity, body moves with the constant speed. Now we see the option. In the option A, acceleration is negative, which is incorrect. B, the acceleration is equal to g. It is also incorrect. C, the air resistance equal to the weight of the object. So it is also given here. The air resistance is equal to weight of object. Option C is correct. Question number 3. A ball is dropped in an evacuated tube. A series of the photographs is taken at equal intervals from the time of release. Another ball of the same size, but twice the mass, is also dropped in the same evacuated tube and photographed. Which diagram shows the motion of the heavier ball? So first of all, here is first ball and these are heavier ball, whose mass is twice than the first ball. All of these are released in the evacuated tube. We know that in the vacuated tube there is no air resistance to affect the motion of the object. And any object, regardless of its mass, move with the same value of acceleration, that is the gravitational acceleration. So both of the balls follow the same trajectory. We see the trajectory of the first ball, the distance between the two balls. We measure this and also compare the trajectory of the first ball with the other. We see here that the B is same as that of the first ball. So option B is correct from here. Because here there is no air resistance, due to which the trajectory will be same. So option B is correct from here. Question number 4. Which statement about the mass and the weight of the object is correct? Option A. They are both affected by the changes in the acceleration of the freely fall. B. They are both forces. C. They have different units. D. Weight is calculated by dividing mass by the acceleration of the free fall. So first of all, we can see here W is equal to mg. Weight is the product of mass and acceleration due to gravity. But here it is given that weight is equal to m over g, which is incorrect. Option C, they both have different unit. The unit of mass is kilogram, while the unit of weight is Newton. So both of these have different unit. Option C is correct. Question number 5. Which statement about the mass of the object is correct? Option A. It is equal to the density divided by volume. B. It is equal to the weight multiplied by the gravitational field strength. C. It is the effect of the gravitational field on the object. D. It is the property that resists a change in velocity. So first of all, we know that density is equal to mass over volume. From here, mass is equal to density multiplied by volume. In the first option, this says that mass is equal to density divided by volume, which is incorrect. Option B. We know that weight is equal to mg. From here, m is equal to w over g. But in option B, it says that m is equal to weight multiplied by g, which is also incorrect. It is the effect of the gravitational field on the object. This is also incorrect. Only option D is correct, which shows that it is a property that resists a change in velocity. Question number 6. An object decelerates from 25.0 meter per second to 5.0 meter per second in a time of 4.0 second. It has a mass of 50 kilogram. What is the resultant force on the object? Here we have to find out the resultant force. We know that according to Newton's second law of motion, F is equal to ma and A is equal to delta V over T. So I write here F is equal to m delta V over T. Change in velocity will be 20 meter per second. So I write here force will be equal to mass is 50 kilogram multiplied by delta V is 20 divided by time, which is 4.0 second. So force will be equal to 250 Newton. From here, option C is correct. Question number 7. A beam is pivoted at one end as shown. So there is the pivot point. The beam weighs 6.0 Newton and its weight acts at a point x, 40 cm from the pivot point. There is a weight that is acting at this point x and it is at a distance of 40 cm from the pivot point. A force of 4.0 Newton is applied to the beam, causing it to balance horizontally. In which direction and where is the 4.0 Newton force applied? So first of all, to balance this beam, the clockwise moment must be equal to the anti-clockwise moment. I calculate clockwise moment here first. Clockwise moment will be equal to, so the clockwise moment is basically caused by the weight that is at the point X. The force will be 6.0 Newton multiplied by distance is 40 centimeter. So I write here 40 centimeter. Clockwise moment will be equal to 240 Newton centimeter. In order to provide the counterclockwise moment, the 4.0 Newton force must be upward. I suppose that the distance of this force will be d. So I write here anti-clockwise moment it will be equal to 4.0 Newton multiplied by d. In order to balance the beam, both of these moments must be equal. So I write here 4.0 Newton multiplied by d, it will be equal to 240 Newton centimeter. So d will be equal to 240 over 4.0, which is equal to 60 centimeter. It means that the distance is 60 centimeter. It must be here. Because this distance is 40 centimeter and this distance is 20 centimeter. It means that the 4.0 Newton force will be 20 centimeter on the right side of X. Now we see the options. Option A, downwards. This is incorrect because this force is upward. B, it also says downward, due to which this is incorrect. C, 20 centimeter to the left of X. Because of the left, this is also incorrect because this force is acting in right side. So option C is also incorrect. Option D, upwards at 20 centimeter to the right of X. So this option is correct. Question number 8. A spacecraft is traveling in the space with no resultant force and no resultant moment acting on it. Which statement about the spacecraft is correct? So the total net force is equal to 0 and also the net moment is equal to 0. This condition is basically for the equilibrium. When the net force and the net moment acting on the body is equal to 0, it means that body is in equilibrium. Now we see the options. Option A, its direction is changing. B, it is in equilibrium. So option B is correct. Question number 9. A car of mass 1000 kg traveling at 8.0 meter per second collide with a lorry of mass 3000 kg that is traveling at 2.0 meter per second in the same direction. After colliding, the two vehicles stick together. What is their speed after the collision? So here we have to find out the speed when both of these vehicles stick together. Here I use the conservation of momentum, that the total momentum before the collision must be equal to the total momentum after the collision. So I write here total momentum before the collision will be mass of car, speed of car plus mass of lorry and speed of lorry. It will be equal to mass and speed, which is after the collision, so here when both of these stick together, after that they move with the same speed. We have to find out this speed. So I write here both of these speeds are equal, and I suppose that it is equal to V. So here will be V mc plus ml. I rearrange this formula. V will be equal to mc uc now I'm going to put values here. V will be equal to mass of car is 1000 kilogram multiplied by its speed is 8.0 plus the mass of lorry is 3000 multiplied by speed is 2.0 divided by the sum of both of these masses. So it will be 1000 plus 3000. So that the value of V will be equal to 3.5 meter per second. Now we see the options. Option A 2.0 meter per second, B 2.5 meter per second, C 3.5 meter per second. So option C is correct. Question number 10. What is the main process by which energy is released in the sun? Option A alpha decay, B beta decay, C nuclear fission, D nuclear fusion. So this is basically the nuclear fusion that take place in the sun. As a result, energy is released from the sun. Question number 11. The work done W by a force is related to the magnitude F of the force and the distance D moved in the direction of the force. Which equation for the W is correct? We know that work is the product of force and distance. Now we see the options. Option A, work is equal to distance divided by force, which is incorrect. B, work is equal to distance plus force. This is also incorrect. C, work is equal to force divided by distance. This is also incorrect. D, work is equal to force multiplied by distance. So only option D is correct from here. Question number 12. A crane on a construction site lifts concrete beams. The useful work done by the crane is 4000 kilojoule in time of 160 seconds. What is the useful output power of the crane? So here we have to find out the power when the work done and time is given. We know that power is the rate of transfer of energy, that is E over T. In our case, the useful work done by the crane is 4000 kilojoule, and this actually appear in the form of energy. So here will be W over T. Work is given 4000 multiplied by 10 की power 3 joule divided by time is 160 seconds. So that power will be equal to 25,000 and the unit of power is watt. I can also write power is equal to 25 into 10 की power 3 watt, that is 25 kilowatt. Now we see the options. Option A 0.04 kilowatt, B 25 watt, C 25 kilowatt. So only option C is correct. Question number 13. A submarine is in water of density 1.0 into 10 की power 3 kilogram per meter cube. The submarine changes its path. This causes the pressure on it to change by 0.10 megapascal. What is the change in the depth of the submarine? So here we have to find out the change in depth of the submarine. So I write here pressure due to the liquid, it is equal to density multiplied by G and depth, which is represented by H. Here we have to find out the value of H. It will be equal to P over density multiplied by G. Now I am going to put values here. Pressure will be 0.10 and I write here 10 की power 6 because of mega. Divided by density is 1.0 into 10 की power 3 and the value of G is 10. So that depth will be equal to 10 meters. From here Option B is correct. Question number 14. An oil tank has a base of area 2.5 meters square and is filled with the oil to a depth of 1.2 meter. The density of the oil is 800 kg per meter cube. What is the force exerted on the base of the tank due to the oil? So here we have to find out the force exerted on the base of the tank, which is due to the oil. So again I use here formula that pressure is equal to force over area, and pressure is also equal to density multiplied by G and multiplied by height. Now I am going to compare both of these. Force over area will be equal to density G and H. So force will be equal to multiplied by area. Now I am going to put values here. Force will be equal to density is 800 multiplied by value of G is 10 and height, which is also equal to depth, it is equal to 1.2 meter multiplied by 2.5. So force will be equal to 24,000 Newton. Now we see the options. Option A 960 Newton, B 2400 Newton, C 9600 Newton, D 24,000 Newton. So option D is correct. Question number 15. When molecules of a gas rebound from a wall of a container, the wall experiences a pressure. What is the cause of this pressure? Option A, the change in energy of the molecules. B, the change in momentum of the molecules. C, the change in power of the molecules. Option D, the change in speed of the molecules. First of all, I consider here a container and it contains gas. There are gas molecules inside this container. We know that the spacing between the gas molecules are very large, due to which these molecules collide with each other and also with the wall of container. So when these molecules collide with the wall of this container, so it will rebound back. There will be the change in momentum. When the change in momentum is here, then according to P is equal to F over A, force will be exerted, due to which there will be the pressure. It means that the wall experiences a pressure due to the change in momentum of the molecules. From here, option B is correct, which shows that the change in momentum of the molecules. Question number 16. A student wishes to calibrate a mercury in glass thermometer with a degree C scale. Which values should she use for the lower fixed point and for the upper fixed point? Lower fixed point and upper fixed point. Option A, melting point of ice, boiling point of mercury. So this is incorrect. B, melting point of ice and boiling point of water. So option B is correct. For the lower fixed point and for the upper fixed point, we use the melting point of the ice and boiling point of the water respectively. Question number 17. In an experiment, an object is heated. The data from the experiment is shown. The energy transferred to the object is 3.0 kilojoule. The mass of the object is 2.0 kilogram. The rising temperature of the object is 10 degrees C. The specific heat capacity of the object is 150 joule per kilogram per degree C. What is the thermal capacity of the object? So here we have to find out the thermal capacity of the object. We know that energy transferred will be equal to the multiplication of thermal capacity and rise in temperature delta T. From here we have to calculate value of C. It will be equal to energy over delta T. Energy is given, which is 3.0 into 10 की power 3 joule divided by rise in temperature. It is given 10 degrees C. So I write here 10 and the unit should be degree C. So C will be equal to 300 joule over degree C. From here, option B is correct. Question number 18. 4 thermometers with their bulb painted with different colors are placed at equal distance from a radiant heater. Which thermometer shows the slowest temperature rise when the heater is first switched on? Option A, matte black, B, matte white, C, shiny black, D, shiny white. So first of all, shiny surfaces is a good reflector and bad heat conductor and radiator. The light that will fall on it will reflect back and it will not absorb. For this reason, shiny white thermometers show slowest temperature rise when the heater is first switched on. So this is basically shiny white surface. Option D is correct. Because black color is the good absorber, we don't use the black color. Because here we have to show the slowest temperature rise. So only option D is correct. Question number 19. A tank contains water. Ripples are produced on the surface of the water, which causes the ripple to refract. Which causes the ripple to refract? Option A, the cold water in the tank is replaced by the warm water. B, the ripple change speed as they move from the deep to the shallow water. C, the ripple hits the wall of the tank. D, the ripples pass through the narrow gap. So from here option B is correct because the speed of the ripple changes when they move from deep to shallow water or shallow to deep water. So that's why the ripple refract. Option B is correct. Question number 20. The light travels at a speed of 2.0 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second in a glass block. In the glass, the wavelength of the light is 4.0 into 10 to the power minus 7 meter. What is the frequency of the light? So here we have to find out the frequency when the speed and wavelength is given. By using equation V is equal to F lambda. From here, F will be equal to speed over wavelength. Speed is 2.0 into 10 to the power 8 divided by wavelength is 4.0 into 10 to the power minus 7. So frequency will be equal to 5.0 into 10 to the power 14 Hertz. From here, option D is correct. Question number 21. Scout T signals to Scout Q on the other side of a valley by using a mirror to reflect the sun's light. Which mirror positions allow the sunlight to be reflected to the Scout Q? First of all, here will be the law of reflection, that the angle of incidence must be equal to the angle of reflection. In the first option A, if I draw here a normal line is any line that is perpendicular to the mirror, and then there will be reflected ray like this, so that the angle of incidence will be equal to angle of reflection. So option A is correct. In all other diagrams, the laws of reflection does not hold. That's why these are not correct position. Only option A is correct from here. Question number 22. A scientist describes light as being monochromatic. What does this tell you about the light? So when the light is monochromatic, it means that it has only single frequency. Or we can simply say that light of single frequency or wavelength is known as monochromatic light. Now we see the option. Option A, it has a single frequency. This is correct statement. B, it has more than one wavelength. So this is incorrect because monochromatic light has only single wavelength. Option C, it travels at a single speed in a single direction. So this is also incorrect. D, it travels at different speed in different direction. This is also incorrect. Only option A is correct. Monochromatic light is a light of single frequency. Question number 23. Which statement is not correct? Option A, the speed of long wavelength infrared radiation in the vacuum is greater than that of the short wavelength ultraviolet light. B, the speed of the microwaves in air is approximately 3.0 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second. C, the speed of the gamma rays emitted from the sample of cobalt-60 is 3.0 into 10 to the power 5 kilometer per second. D, the X-rays emitted in a supernova explosion reaches the Earth at the same time as the visible light emitted. First of all, we know here that the infrared radiation and the ultraviolet radiation, both of these are electromagnetic radiation and they travel with the same speed, that is equal to the speed of light in the vacuum. So from here, in the option A, it says that the long wavelength infrared radiation travels in the vacuum with the greater speed. So this is incorrect because both of these travel with the same speed, which is equal to speed of light. So option A is correct, but this statement is incorrect. Question number 24. A siren is emitting a sound. As the time passes, the sound becomes louder and higher pitched. What is happening to the amplitude and to the frequency of the emitted sound wave? So first of all, here sound is louder and it has high pitch. The loudness of the sound is basically related with the amplitude, while the pitch is related with frequency. The higher the pitch of the sound, the higher will be frequency. Both of these varies directly proportion to each other. So here is high pitch. It means that frequency will be higher. Similarly, louder sound means that greater amplitude. So here I write amplitude will be high. Now we see the option amplitude and frequency. Option A, decreasing. This is incorrect because both of these increases. B, decreasing. This is also incorrect. C, increasing. This option is also incorrect. Option D, increasing. So as the sound become louder and high pitched, the amplitude and frequency both increases. So option D is correct from here. Question number 25. A permanent magnet is placed close to a bar of soft iron. There is a permanent magnet and it is placed close to the soft iron bar. What are the polarities of the end P and of the end Q? So we have to find out these polarities. We know that when the permanent magnet is close to the soft iron bar, there will be the attraction between them. And we know that similar poles repel each other while the opposite pole attract each other. When there is an attraction, the P pole must be south while the Q must be north, so that there is attraction between them and the permanent magnet is placed close to the soft iron bar. Now we see the options and P and Q. Option A, north and north. So this is incorrect. B, north and south. This is also incorrect because the end P is basically south. Option C, south and north. This option is correct. Question number 26. Which method is used to demagnetize a bar magnet? Option A, lower it into water. B, heat it with a Bunsen burner. C, place it in a metal box. D, suspend it in a sling. So heating a bar magnet with a Bunsen burner will demagnetize it. So option B is correct from here. By heating we can demagnetize the bar magnet. Question number 27. What is the electromotive force EMF of the cell? So electromotive force is basically energy over charge. It is the amount of energy gained by the unit charge as the charge passing through the whole cell. Now we see the options. Option A, the amount of charge that passing through the cell per unit time. So amount of charge over time, this is basically equal to current. So option A is incorrect. B, the energy gained per unit charge as the charge passes through the cell. So option B is correct. We also see the other options. Option C, the total amount of the charge flowing through the cell. This is incorrect. D, the total energy stored in the cell. So option D is also incorrect. Question number 28. A student measures the potential difference across a device and current in the device. Which calculation gives the resistance of the device? So there is potential difference and current, and we have to find out the resistance. According to Ohm's law, V is equal to IR. From here, V is the potential difference, I is the current, and R is resistance. So R will be equal to V over I. R is basically equal to potential difference divided by current. Now we see the options. Option A, current plus potential difference. So this is incorrect because here is addition. B, current divided by potential difference. Here this says that resistance is equal to I over V, which is incorrect because I over V is basically equal to 1 over R. So this option is also incorrect. C, potential difference divided by current. So here R is equal to V over I. Now we match this equation with this one. Both of these are same. So only option C is correct. Question number 29. A piece of wire is 40 cm long and has a diameter of 2.0 mm. Its resistance is 0.30 ohm. Which wire of the same material has a resistance of 0.15 ohm? So first of all, data is given. Length in centimeters and diameter in millimeter. We have to find the wire that has the same resistance, which is 0.15 ohms. First of all, I find out the resistivity by using the data that is given in the question. We know that R is equal to resistivity length over area, but here we are given diameter. So I write here 4 resistivity length over pi d square, where d is the diameter. From here, resistivity will be equal to resistance pi d square over 4L. I put values here. So resistivity will be equal to, resistance is given 0.30 ohm multiplied by 3.14 divided by multiplied by diameter, which is given 2.0 millimeter. So I write here 2.0 into 10 की power minus 3 and I take its square because here is square divided by 4 multiplied by length. Length is 40 centimeter. So I write here 40 into 10 की power minus 2 because I have to convert the length into meter. So resistivity will be equal to 2.3565 into 10 की power minus 6, and the unit of resistivity is ohm meter. Next, I use this value of resistivity to find out the resistance that is given in the options. So first of all, I consider option A and use formula R is equal to 4 resistivity length over pi d square. Now I am going to put values here. 4 multiplied by 2.3565 into 10 की power minus 6 multiplied by length, which is 20 centimeter. So here will be 20 into 10 की power minus 2 divided by 3.14 multiplied by d square, which is 1.0. So here will be 1.0 into 10 की power minus 3 square. So resistance will be equal to 0.589 ohms. Now consider option B. R will be equal to 4 multiplied by 2.3565 into 10 की power minus 6, where the length is again 20 centimeter. So here will be 20 into 10 की power minus 2 divided by 3.14 into diameter is 4.0. So here will be 4.0 into 10 की power minus 3 square. So that the resistance will be equal to 0.037 ohms. Now I consider option C. For the option C, resistance will be 4 multiplied by resistivity, which is 2.3565 into 10 की power minus 6 multiplied by length, which is given 80 centimeter, divided by 3.14 into diameter is again 1.0 millimeter. So resistance will be equal to 2.40 ohm. For the data given in option D, resistance will be equal to 4 multiplied by 2.3565 into 10 की power minus 6, and length is given again 80 centimeter. So I write here 80 into 10 की power minus 2 divided by 3.14 into diameter, which is 4.0. So I write here 4.0 into 10 की power minus 3 square. So the resistance will be equal to 0.15 ohms. In this question, we have to find that which one of the following wire has the resistance of 0.15 ohm. So this is option D, for which the resistance is equal to 0.15 ohm. So only option D is correct. Question number 30. A diode is used as a rectifier. What is the purpose of a rectifier? Option A. To allow the current to pass in either direction. B. To change the alternating current into direct current. C. To switch off the circle in the case of large current. D. To provide the efficient source of light. So first of all, diode is allow the current to pass only in one direction. So option A is incorrect. It says that to allow the current to pass in either direction. And diode is used to convert the alternating current into direct current. So option B is correct from here. Question number 31. A student sets up this circuit. So there is a circuit, there is battery and lamp. And this is basically thermistor. I write here thermistor. This is lamp. What is the purpose of this circuit? Option A. To allow a lamp to be made dimmer or brighter as required. B. To amplify the sound of voice. C. To light a lamp in the dark. D. To sound a bell when the temperature rises. So first of all, we check here. Thermistor is connected with the bell when the temperature increases. Then the resistance of the thermistor semiconductor decrease because the thermistor shows negative temperature coefficient. So by increasing the temperature, the resistance decreases. And when the constant voltage DC source is connected, then as the resistance decrease, the current supplied to the bell increase. And the bell ring only when the current is increased enough to operate it. So basically the purpose of this circuit is to sound a bell when the temperature rises. Only option D is correct. Question number 32. The diagram shows two voltmeters P and Q connected to a potential divider. So there are two voltmeters P and Q. The sliding connection at a point X is moved towards the top of the diagram. What happens to the reading on the P and to the reading on the Q? So this sliding contact is moving basically in the upward direction. Then what will be the reading on the voltmeter P and on the voltmeter Q? The two voltmeters are connected in the potential divider, in which the potential difference increases by increasing the resistance. So first of all, when I move this sliding contact at the top position, I suppose here, then by moving this sliding contact top, the resistance decrease. When the resistance decrease, then the potential difference also decrease, so that the reading on the voltmeter P decrease. But if I consider that the sliding contact is at the bottom, then the resistance increase. By the increase in resistance, the potential difference increase, due to which the reading on the voltmeter Q also increase. Now we see the options. Reading on the P and reading on Q. Option A, decreases, decreases. B, decreases, increases. So from here option B is correct, because the reading on the P is decreases while the reading on the voltmeter Q increases. So only option B is correct. Question number 33. The circuit shown contains two gates. There are two gates. First of all, this is NOT gate, while second one is OR gate. It has two inputs, P and Q, and a single output R. Which truth table describes the operation of this circuit? So we have to guess that which one of the truth table is following circuit is correct. First of all, I suppose the input 0 and 0. By applying the NOT gate, 0 changes into 1 and 1 changes into 0. So here will be 1, while this 0 comes as it is here. So when 0 and 1 combine by the OR gate, here will be output 1. Because in the OR gate, when any one of the input is high, the output will be high. Now we see the options. In the option A, when the input is 0 and 0, output is 0, which is incorrect because our output is 1. So option A is incorrect. B is also incorrect because here inputs 0, 0 gives output 0. So option B is also incorrect. Option C and D is correct. We have to guess that either option C is correct or option D is correct. Next, you consider the inputs 1 and 0. So here will be 1 and 0. This 1 comes here as it is and 0 changes into 1. So when 1 and 1 combines by the OR gate, here will be output 1. Now I see the option C. When there is 1 and 0, the output is given 0, which is incorrect. So option D is also incorrect. Option D, when here is 1 and 0, the output is 1. We also have output 1. So only option D is correct from here. Question number 34. In an AC generator, a coil is rotated in the magnetic field and an electromotive force, which is EMF, is induced in the coil. In which position of the coil does the EMF has the largest value? So 4 positions are shown here and we have to tell the position in which the EMF has the largest value. The EMF has only largest value in the horizontal position, that is given in the option A. So option A is correct. In the option B, coil is at some angle. Similarly, in the option D, coil is also at some angle, but in the option C, the coil is vertically. So all of these are incorrect. Only option A is correct from here. Question number 35. Wire P carries a current directed perpendicularly into the page. A compass is placed at the point Q, which is close to the wire P. The magnetic field at the Q due to the current is very much larger than the magnetic field of the earth. In which direction does the north pole of the compass point? As you can see here that this compass is placed near to the wire P. It means that there will be the attraction between them. First of all, I find out the magnetic field of the wire P. As the current in the wire is perpendicular into the page. As the current is pointing into the page, by using the right hand rule, I have to point my thumb in the direction of the current. Then my curling fingers will actually show the direction of the magnetic field. When I apply right hand rule here, the direction of magnetic field will be clockwise. So I write here magnetic field is in clockwise direction. So when the magnetic field is clockwise direction, we also know that magnetic field lines emerges from the North Pole and enters into the South Pole. So the direction of the magnetic field lines is from North to South Pole of the magnet. So we see from here, if I consider here is a magnet, this will be South Pole and this will be North, because the magnetic field points in clockwise direction. This is the poles for the magnet, but we have to show that in which direction the North Pole of the compass point. As the compass is very close to the wire P, there will be attraction. It means that the North Pole of the compass will be the South Pole of the magnet. So here will be the North Pole of compass. So only option A is correct from here. Question number 36. A transformer has NP turns in the primary coil and NS turns in the secondary coil. Which row gives the value of NP and NS for the transformer that step up a voltage of 1200 volt to 36,000 volt? NP and NS. Option A 2000 60,000, B 2000 600,000, C 60,000 and 2000, D 600,000 and 2000. So first of all, we know that the ratio of the number of turns will be equal to the ratio of the voltage. I write here Vp over Vs will be equal to Np over Ns. First of all, I find out the ratio of the voltage Vp over Vs. It is given that the transformer is step up a voltage of 1200 volt to 3600 volt. It means that primary voltage is 1200 divided by secondary is 36,000. So here will be 1 over 30. Next, I find out the number of turns ratio for the given option. I consider A and find out Np over Ns. For the option A, here will be 2000 divided by 60,000, which is equal to 1 over 30. For the option B, Np over Ns will be equal to 2000 divided by 600,000. So it will be 1 over 300. For the option C, Np over Ns will be equal to 60,000 divided by 2000, which is equal to 30. And for the option D, Np over Ns will be equal to 600,000 divided by 2000, which is equal to 300. Now we see here that the ratio of the voltage is 1 over 30, and for the option A, the ratio of the number of turns is also equal to 1 over 30. It means that option A is correct from here. Question number 37. In the atomic model, an atom consists of a central mass orbited by much smaller particle. So there is a central mass and there is orbiting particle. What is the name of the central mass and of the orbiting particle? So central mass is basically nucleus, while the orbiting particle is basically electron. Now we see the options. central mass, orbiting particles. Option A, neutron alpha particle. This is incorrect. B, neutron and electron. This is also incorrect. C, nucleus and alpha particles. Orbiting particle is basically the electron. So option C is also incorrect. Option D, nucleus and electron. So option D is correct. Question number 38. An isotope of polonium has a nuclide notation PO with mass number 218 and atomic number 84. A nucleus of this isotope decays by emitting an alpha particle. A beta particle is then emitted to form of nuclide X. What is the notation for the nuclide X? So first of all, here is polonium. It decays by the emission of alpha particle. So here will be alpha emission. First of all, alpha particle has atomic number 2 and mass number 4. Plus, I suppose that here will be element Y. And I have to find out the atomic number and atomic mass of the element Y. I see here on the left hand side, mass number is 218. It will be equal to 4 plus. There will be 214. So that 218 is equal to 218. So here will be 214. Next we check the atomic number. On the left hand side, atomic number is 84. And there will be 2 plus which number? Here will be 82. So I write here 82. The next part of this question is that beta particle is then emitted to form of nuclide X. So there is also the emission of beta particle, which is electron 0 and -1. So what will be here next? I write here the element is no Y. Now it changes into X with the emission of beta particle, which is electron. As the mass number of electron is 0, so the mass number of X will be same as that of the Y. So here will be 214, but the atomic number on the left hand side, it is 82 and here is -1. So here will be 83. So that it is also equal to 82. I write here 83. Now I check options. Option A, 214 and 81. Here is 214 and 83. So option A is incorrect. Option B, 213 and 82. This is also incorrect because here is 214. Option C, 83 and 213. This is also incorrect. Option D, 214 and 83. So option D is correct from here. Question number 39. The table compares the penetrating abilities and the ionizing effect of the alpha radiation and gamma radiation. Which row is correct? Least penetrating, most ionizing. Alpha particles are most ionizing. The ionization of the alpha particle is largest as compared to beta and gamma rays. So most ionizing is alpha, while the least penetrating is also alpha. The most ionizing particle must be least penetrating. So it will be alpha particle. Now we see the option. In the option A, it is given alpha and alpha. So only option A is correct from here. Question number 40. The graph shows how the count rate registered by a counter near to a sample of radioactive isotope changes over a period of few days. The background count rate is 5 counts per minute. There is time in days and the count rate, which is count per minute. What is the half-life of the isotope? Here we have to find the half-life of the isotope. So first of all, it is given that the background count rate is 5 counts per minute. I consider different points on the graph and write readings. So first of all, when the time is 0 day, the reading is 45. I write here time and count rate. when the time is 0, count rate is 45. When the time is 2 days, count rate is 25. At the 4 days, count rate is 15. While at the 6 days, count rate is 10. So all of these are the count rate. Next we have to subtract the background count rate, which is given 5. So I write here 45 minus 5, which is equal to 40. Here will be 20, 10 and 5. We have to find out the half-life here. Half-life is the time during which the count rate remains half. Initially the count rate is 40 and then it remains 10. When the next half-life passes, the count rate remains 10. Again, when the next half-life passes, count rate is 5. It means that initially the count rate is 40. When the first half-life passes, here will be 20. So when the second half-life passes, here will be 10 counts per second. So this interval is basically equal to the half-life. Half-life will be equal to 2 days because in the 2 days, the count rate reduces to half. So the half-life will be equal to 2 days. From here, option A is correct.